Am I the asshole for divorcing my wife after her friends convinced her to fake an affair to test my love? I never imagined I would be the kind of person to write something like this. Honestly, I've always believed in working through problems and forgiveness and giving people the benefit of the doubt. I've never been the dramatic one. But now, I'm sitting here wondering if I'm losing my mind or if I've just finally hit my limit. My wife, Emma, and I have been married for 5 years. Before all of this, I would have told you we were solid. Not perfect, of course. We had our ups and downs, like everyone. Sometimes we fought over little things, who was doing the dishes, who forgot to grab milk on the way home. But I thought we were happy. I really did. Things started to shift about 8 months ago when Emma got close to a new group of friends from her job. They were mostly older women, most of them recently divorced or going through nasty breakups. At first, I didn't think anything of it. I even encouraged her to hang out with them. I thought it would be good for her to have her own circle, people to vent to about work or whatever. I didn't realize those people would end up poisoning our entire relationship. It started subtly. Emma would come home from their brunches or wine nights with new, almost cynical ideas about relationships. She started throwing out phrases like, "Love is just convenience dressed up as devotion, and men only stick around if you let them get away with everything." When I asked her what she meant, she'd laugh it off and say I was overthinking it. I didn't push. Maybe I should have. A few weeks later, I noticed she was on her phone constantly, texting, giggling to herself, sometimes abruptly putting the phone face down when I walked into the room. I asked who she was talking to so much, and she said it was just group chats with the girls. I didn't want to be the insecure husband, so I let it go. But things started to pile up. She started going out more, late dinners, last-minute plans, overnight trips with her friends where she would be weirdly vague about the details. I told myself not to jump to conclusions. I told myself I trusted her. I'd known Emma for nearly a decade. She wouldn't do something like that. Right? Except, over time, the cracks started to show. She stopped being affectionate. She stopped making time for us. When I brought it up, she called me clingy and said I needed to give her space. That hurt more than I admitted. The real shift happened one night when she came home drunk from one of her girls' nights and said, out of nowhere, "Would you still love me if I did something really stupid?" She tried to play it off like she was just being silly, but there was something in her eyes that made me freeze. It wasn't a joke. I knew her too well to miss that. I asked what she meant, and she just shook her head and said, "Nothing. Never mind." But the way she kissed me that night, it felt distant, almost guilty. After that, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. I started noticing small things, receipts from restaurants she told me she wasn't at, phone calls she would take in the other room, new passwords on her phone. I confronted her once. I didn't accuse her of anything. I just told her I was feeling disconnected and that I needed honesty from her. She scoffed and said I was being paranoid. She told me I needed to trust her and that she wasn't going to live under a microscope. She made me feel like I was the crazy one. I started to doubt myself. The worst part? I wanted to believe her. I chose to believe her. Until the day my best friend, Mark, called me, sounding like he'd just seen a ghost. Mark and I have been friends since high school. He knew Emma well. He wasn't the type to stir the pot. "Hey man, I don't know how to say this, but I saw Emma today. I wasn't looking for it. I just happened to be near the park downtown. She was there with some guy. They were holding hands. It looked serious. I thought maybe I was overreacting, but then, they kissed. It wasn't just a peck, man. It was a kiss. The world tilted under me. I wanted to scream that he was lying, that he misread the situation, but I knew Mark. He wasn't lying. He told me he even snapped a photo, not because he wanted to hurt me, but because he knew I wouldn't believe him otherwise. When he sent me the picture, I felt like my lungs had collapsed. There she was, Emma, my wife, arms wrapped around some guy, kissing him like they didn't have a care in the world. I confronted her that night. She didn't deny it, but what she said next sent me into a tailspin. It was a test, she said, as if that explained everything. I had to know if you loved me enough to fight for me, to stay, no matter what. The girl said men leave over the smallest things. I needed to know you were different. I just stared at her, waiting for her to realize how insane that sounded. But she genuinely believed what she was saying. She tried to hug me. I stepped back. This wasn't real, she insisted, tears starting to form. He's nobody. He was in on it. He knew it was just a test. It was all fake. It was for us. I wanted to prove our love. I asked her if the plan involved gaslighting me. making me feel like I was paranoid, making me question my own reality. I asked her how far she would have gone if I hadn't caught her. She didn't have answers. Instead, she begged me to understand. She called me cruel when I told her I wanted a divorce. That's when her friends and even her family started bombarding me with calls and messages. They said I was overreacting, that it wasn't a real affair, that Emma only did it because she loved me so much she needed to prove something. They tried to guilt me. They said love is about forgiveness. But how can I forgive something that was intentionally designed to break me? How can I trust someone who deliberately chose to gamble with my heart? I told her I'm done. Now everyone is calling me the bad guy. But I don't think I am. Am I? After I told Emma I wanted a divorce, the true fallout began. At first, I thought I would have some support. I thought at least our mutual friends would understand that what she did crossed a line. But it quickly became clear that the story Emma was telling was very different from the one I was living. According to her, I was a cold, unforgiving husband who threw away a marriage over a harmless experiment. She told everyone that it wasn't even a real affair, that it was just a psychological test that went too far. She painted herself as a woman so desperate to feel loved that she made a stupid mistake that I was too prideful to forgive. And people believed her. Her friends obviously backed her. They started this whole thing, after all. But what shocked me was how quickly her family and even some of my family started taking her side. I got calls from her mother, crying, saying I was ruining Emma's life over nothing. Her sister messaged me paragraphs about how marriage is about riding out the storms, and that Emma's actions were misguided but came from love. One of my cousins even told me that I should apologize for making Emma feel insecure in the first place. For weeks, it felt like the entire world turned against me. The loneliness was suffocating. I questioned myself over and over. Was I overreacting? Was I being too harsh? Was I really throwing away 5 years over something that, technically, wasn't real? But the more I thought about it, the more I realized it was real. The betrayal, the lies, the manipulation, the emotional torture, that was all real. She deliberately staged an affair. She deliberately let me suffer. She deliberately made me question my own sanity. How is that not real? It wasn't just the kiss. It was the gaslighting. The deliberate breaking of trust to test me like I was some lab rat. When I filed for divorce, she begged me to reconsider. She promised therapy, promised to cut off her toxic friends, promised anything if I would just stay. But I couldn't. Something inside me had broken. I moved out, stayed with Mark for a while. He was one of the few people who stuck by me. He saw it all unfold from the beginning. He told me I was right to leave, even when I wasn't sure myself. The divorce wasn't as messy as it could have been. We didn't have kids. We had some joint finances to untangle, but that was it. Emma signed the papers, but not without plenty of last-ditch pleas and emotional blackmail. She even tried to weaponize my own mother against me, but thankfully, my mom eventually saw through her act. The silence after the divorce was deafening. Friends I thought were solid disappeared. Family stopped inviting me to gatherings. I was called cold, heartless, a man who couldn't handle one mistake. I spent months in therapy trying to rebuild my sense of self-worth, trying to remember who I was before I started doubting everything I saw and felt. There were nights I wanted to call Emma, nights I wanted to believe maybe I'd made it all bigger than it was. But my therapist reminded me you don't test love by staging betrayal. You don't test loyalty by committing treason. I focused on myself. I started working out, taking trips, reconnecting with old friends I had drifted away from during the marriage. I poured my energy into my career and started traveling for work, something Emma always discouraged. And slowly, piece by piece, I began to feel like a whole person again. About 9 months after the divorce, I got a message from Emma's former best friend, Laura, the one who originally came up with the so-called loyalty test. Her message was simple. I'm sorry. We took it too far. I see that now. I regret pushing Emma to do it. I didn't think it would blow up like that. I didn't respond. What was I supposed to say? Thanks for your apology after you helped detonate my life? A few weeks later, Emma reached out. She asked to meet for coffee. She said she wanted to talk. Against my better judgment, I agreed. I don't know why. Closure, maybe. Or maybe I just wanted to see if she still believed her own lies. When I saw her, it was like looking at a ghost. She had lost weight, looked exhausted, and her confidence was gone. She told me her friend group had fallen apart. Laura cut her off after the fallout. The other women distanced themselves when they realized they couldn't manipulate me. Emma said she had been going to therapy. That she now understood how damaging the test had been. That she realized she had destroyed something real chasing after artificial proof. She cried. She begged. She said she wanted a second chance. She said she would spend the rest of her life proving she had changed. I let her finish. And then I told her no. I told her I don't believe in loving people who set fires to see if you'll run into the flames. I told her she wasn't the woman I married anymore, and maybe I wasn't the man she remembered either. I wished her well and left. I don't know what she's doing now. I haven't heard from her since. I've since met someone new. Someone who doesn't need to test my love because she trusts it. Someone who believes love is built, not gambled with. Sometimes I still wonder how things might have turned out if Emma had just trusted me instead of orchestrating that cruel charade. But then I remind myself that people who love you don't put you through hell to see if you'll come back. They just love you. So, was I the asshole for divorcing her over something that was just a test? I don't think I was. Not for a second. After that last meeting with Emma, I thought that would be the end of it. I thought I could just walk away, rebuild my life, and never hear from her or any of the people who supported her again. But life's not that neat. The thing about stepping away from something toxic is that it leaves a space. And when you finally start filling that space with healthier things, new friendships, new habits, new love, the people who used to control you can feel that distance like a vacuum, and some of them hate it. The real recovery wasn't just about getting over Emma. It was about tearing down the entire structure of guilt and self-doubt that I'd been living under. I didn't realize how much I'd shrunk myself to keep that marriage alive until I started living alone. I started saying yes to things I used to avoid. I took weekend trips to the mountains, something Emma always called a waste of money. I started learning to cook for myself, not just because someone else expected me to. I reconnected with friends who told me, quietly, that they never trusted Emma's little experiment story. Some of them admitted they pulled away because they didn't want to get caught in the drama, but now that things had settled, they reached back out. Not all of them, of course. Some stayed gone. That's fine. About a year after the divorce, I met Mia. We bumped into each other at a mutual friend's birthday party. I wasn't looking for anything serious at the time. I told myself I was done with love for a while. But Mia was different. She didn't play games. She didn't need me to jump through hoops to prove anything. She just showed up. We started slow. She knew about my past. She knew the whole story. I wasn't going to pretend I didn't have scars. She respected that. And somehow, with her, I started to feel safe again. It didn't feel like walking on eggshells. It felt like breathing. I didn't realize how much I missed that. The more we built our relationship, the more I realized how much I had tolerated before. How much of myself I had shaved off to make my previous marriage work. I thought I had fully moved on, but then Emma's family found their way back into my life. It started with her sister, Olivia. She messaged me one day out of nowhere, asking to catch up. I didn't respond. A week later, I got a voicemail from Emma's mom. She said Emma wasn't doing well, that she had lost most of her friends, that she was struggling to hold a stable job, that she still talked about me all the time. I deleted the voicemail. But then Emma herself reached out again. She sent me a long email. She said she heard I was seeing someone new, that she was happy for me, but that she couldn't stop thinking about us, that she now fully understood what she'd done and wanted nothing more than to start from scratch. She said she wanted to meet again, just to talk, just to find peace. I ignored it. I thought maybe that would finally be the end. But then her mother showed up at my work. She didn't make a scene, thankfully, but she cornered me as I was heading to my car. She said Emma was devastated, that I had proven my point by leaving, and now it was time to come home. She said the family had suffered enough. I looked her straight in the eye and told her I was home. That was the last time I spoke to any of them. I blocked Emma's family on everything, changed my phone number, even moved to a different part of the city when Mia and I decided to get a place together. But the part one didn't expect, the part that still baffles me, is that some of the people who turned on me during the divorce started to crawl back, too. Mutual friends who had called me heartless suddenly wanted to grab lunch. Old coworkers who used to whisper behind my back started sending me congratulations when they saw I was doing well. I never screamed at them. I never called them out. I didn't need to. I just smiled, politely declined their invitations, and moved on with my life. There's a quiet kind of revenge in success. Not the flashy, in-your-face revenge you see in movies. The quieter, heavier kind. The kind where you no longer need to prove anything to anyone. The kind where you're simply free. I never wanted to destroy Emma. I never wanted to win. I just wanted peace. And I have it now. Mia and I have built a life that feels safe, real. No tests, no games. I still think about what happened sometimes. Not with anger anymore. Mostly with disbelief. I still wonder what would have happened if Emma had simply trusted me. But then I realized that if she had, I never would have found this version of my life. The one where I can finally breathe. The one where I'm finally me. So, was I the asshole for walking away from a test? No. Because love doesn't need to be tested. It just needs to be trusted. And if that makes me heartless to some people, so be it. I'm at peace with that. Thanks for watching. Make sure to subscribe to the channel and hit the like button.